Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pikeville City Managers Report. I'm your host, Jill Fraley, here as always with Pikeville City Manager Donovan Blackburn, where we discuss many things going on in and around our wonderful city, and today will be no different. We have a lot to get to. So, Donovan, we will get right to it today. Good day to you.
Well, Jill, good day. Great seeing you again.
Great to see you. We have a guest with us today, Luke Schmidt. I'll let you introduce him in just a moment.
Sure.
It's been a little bit since we've been together, so we have a lot to get to, but one of the major things that we're going to discuss over the next hour is commercial air service to our regional airport in Pikeville and what the offerings are. There have been a lot of things talked about in the press in the last few weeks.
Sure.
And so we want to put to rest some of those things today and let Luke give us a great example of what's to come.
Absolutely, Jill. First of all, want to apologize to our viewing audience out there. If you're listening, you might hear some background noise.
Yes.
The studio is located right beside of the new home of the new Jenny Wiley Theater, and the construction is going on. As you know, this is been a very progressive city, and the theater is another project that we're extremely proud of, and we'll definitely endure the inconvenience for the outcome of what we are projecting to open next year.
Yeah, a little bit of noise for a lot of progress. We'll take that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's and along those lines, that's what happens when you get into progress. You know, people in the community have been very tolerant, but when you look all around and you look at things like the hospital and the new hotel and the Scholar House and several other projects, soon to come the new Commons, and people sometimes are inconvenienced by those facts, but very tolerant because they realize that it's improving the quality of life, and we appreciate it and again apologize. So back to the point is
commercial air service.
Well, you know, I'd like to, I guess, start out is that to your point, there has been a lot of discussion in the media and by local officials, and the intent today, we kind of realize that the public is not really in the complete know of what the intent for this service is. So what we've done is I've invited Luke onto the show today to come down, and there's a PowerPoint I'll introduce or give it to him in just a minute to let him go through. But before we get there, I want to kind of set it up for everybody to kind of understand what the issues are and what's going on. First of all, last week the City Commission and the Airport Board had a joint special meeting, and that's the first time we've done something like this. But the purpose of the meeting was really simple. It was to exercise two contracts, and the reason that the meetings were done jointly is because both contracts are tied in together in a sense of a partnership. One for facilities, the other for financing and subsidies, and that Luke will talk about that in just a moment. But the two parties that were at hand to approve these contracts were these two agencies. So the purpose of bringing both agencies together was so that if one agency has a question about the other agency's contract, that it could all be discussed and debated publicly and with the press and the TV and radio and everybody there to ask any and all questions. We followed it up with a press release and trying to be very transparent as up to what this is going on. As the public is aware, and because we talk about frequently, is that anytime you're going through a negotiation period, a lot of those issues are handled either one-on-one or in closed session. Some of that is because there's some confidential information that you candidly can't share, or the provider that you're dealing with doesn't want their statistics or numbers or what their deal out is. So there's a lot of reasons for that. But you know, I can assure when we were going through these contracts, as they were coming through, whether it was from Bill Hickman, who's the chairman, who also happens to be an attorney, who's a well-respected attorney in the market, very smart man, and you know, he had it. There was some outside legal help from with the airport board that he utilized, the city attorney, and some others that put their eyes on this. So there was a lot of, and then the board members, as the drafts were being prepared, those were being sent to the board members for their comments. There was, and what you'll see here in just a moment is this plan that was put together was very well thought out. There was some rationality and reasoning as up to why we took certain paths. And the outcome is something that we're very excited about and very pleased with, because quite honestly, Jill, this is something that a lot of people, Luke will tell you, that told us that could not be done, and I believe a lot of people were surprised that it was, because this is somewhat of a new model, but it's a proven model, and it's one that I know and feel very confident that will work as long as, and here's the key point, as long as our community wraps its arms around it and utilizes the service. Now, with that said, this week that we're in, the Pike County Fiscal Court held their meeting, and they passed a resolution questioning some of the legalities of the actions of the airport board, the city of Pikeville, and the contracts as a whole. The committee, at the direction, and I'm speaking, by the way, on behalf of the city commission, who I've had discussions with. I actually had a commissioner who was supposed to be on the show this morning, but he works during the day and he got called away. But so understand, these aren't necessarily just my views; these are views from the commission. But with that, the city wanted to make sure that the public was aware of what we did, why we did it, and to answer some of the concerns that the fiscal court had regarding the resolution. So with that said, there was a press release that went out yesterday that defines the project, goes point by point on the concerns that were brought before by the fiscal court, and then the purpose for this show today is again to release to the public, to let them know point by point what this service is and why we went down this path. Now, the one point that I want to open up before we get into the discussion is that there are many people that have been involved in this process from day one. When we first started this process, we had the city, the county, the airport board, the chamber, all sitting around the table, and we elected, because everybody agrees that there is need for this type of service. Right. So going forward with that, we hired Luke because of his background and expertise, which I'll let him kind of tell in just a moment. But bringing Luke into the mix, one of the things that we're missing is that the ad district had actually conducted a study a little before this committee was put together and was released, and again, kind of homed in on the Pikeville Pike County Airport after studying the region as to where the best location would be for service and what the need was. So that was the kind of, I won't say the first step, but that was a step for our area. When we brought Luke in, there were some components missing for us to go actually be able to market it to the different providers or researching providers. So we brought Luke into the mix, the four agencies. When we got into the report, the agreement was that we would share the cost of his services, so that and the intent was to apply for a small communities air grant through a federal grant. And once we got to that point, then the invoices were sent out, the county elected not to participate, and they withdrew, as the press release states, stating that the fiscal court was not supportive of what direction we were taking at that point. We fully respected that. There was no problem with that. But the issue is with the city commission, and again, after having conversation with the commission, I want the public to be very understanding, is that I brought to the meeting last Friday several, a stack about that big of papers, and those were 3 different studies that's been done. I think 4 different studies, 3 different comprehensive plans, a couple of newspaper articles, all calling for the need for commercial air service. Almost everything that you touch was talking about the need that if we want to recruit certain type of businesses, that this is a major component to do so. So in the 10 years that I've been here, Jill, it's been something that's been on our radar. The year that I started, there was actually a meeting, I remember, in the library, and it was a bunch of business leaders came together with the chamber was the at the time it was Kitty White, now Kitty Baird, but Kitty was one that was presenting it, and there were several businesses, the mayor attended, I attended, and the committee, the group, decided there was 3 initiatives that our community needed to focus on. The first initiative was in order to recruit business, create a better way of life, and just overall support our economy. The first one was we had a need for new restaurants. And we can check that off, because as you look at all the new restaurants, everything from not just Texas Roadhouse and the Blue Raven, but there's several others that have opened in the market. The second issue that was on the 3 main objectives was new hotels. So again, you've got that, we can check that off. And since that time, the Hampton Inn was built, the Holiday Inn Express was built, and obviously New Hilton Gardens being built. The third item, which has been very difficult, was commercial air service. So as soon as my career started in 2004, it's been on our horizon in a sense of saying this is something we need to work for. So we fast forward to this to where we are today. The commission, the 2005 comprehensive plan, commercial air service was part of. We just released our new comprehensive plan, commercial service was part of. So though we respected and understood the county's position at that time, the committee was not deterred at all, because we were just awarded there soon after the $750,000 grant. Now, talking about that grant briefly is that grant was a very competitive grant that we applied for on a national basis. I went down and met with Congressman Rogers in Washington, and he very much supported. But through the support of over 200 businesses in our community, letters that were written, the support of, so I wouldn't forget, letters written by Congressman Rogers, Senator McConnell, Senator Paul, Speaker Stumbo, Secretary Hayes, Department for Local Government, our local representatives, Senator Jones, and the support we've had from the Floyd County and Knott County fiscal courts. And then again, 200 businesses in our community said that we want this service. So the commission and this committee heard that cry, and we went to work. The $750 grant was awarded to the city as the funding agency. Now that's very important, because you have to have a governmental agency that applies for these grants. We applied not only for this grant, but the other grant we'll talk about here in just a moment. So the city applies for the grant, and we move forward once we realize we have the $750. Well, and in that time, Mr. Smith here was on board, and we commissioned him. The committee is still made up of the airport, the chamber, the Southeast Chamber, and the city of Pikeville. Commissioned him not only to put together these reports, but also to start negotiation and discussions with various providers, looking for the best deal that we could offer to our public to promote commercial air service. Well, Luke traveled and spoke to several of the major names, the major airlines. As a matter of fact, we even took a trip, he and I, out to Tempe, Arizona to meet with US Air. What we realized at that point is that we are, and no disrespect, and Luke can somewhat disagree with me in this field, but what we realized is that we were a small fish in a very large pond. And that when you're talking to a company that does billions of dollars a year, asking them to basically take on a project that's $2 million over a 2-year period is not a top priority. So we had that kind of same feeling through several of the major providers that we discussed. So it is somewhat, I would say, disillusional if you look at a small market community such as this and think that under today's climate that you're going to get a brand name such as US Air to come into your market, but that we weren't deterred. By that meeting, one of the now let me back up and say that US Air was very interested in talking to us, understood our plan and what we were asking for, was very receptive. We got a meeting at their corporate office, which I didn't think would actually happen. So they were very workable, but just basically told us, we're getting ready to go through a merger, we understand what's going on, and we may work with you in the future if something was more established. Well, the partner that we brought to that meeting, representative from Somerset was at the meeting as well, and the partner that we brought to the meeting was also Alan with Corporate Flight Management. Now, during that presentation that we presented to US Air, I was blown away because I learned something from it. Because we met CFM, Corporate Flight Management, understood they're located in Nashville, understood what their business was, but through the presentation that he put on with US Air, understand US Air was already, the proposal with US Air was to utilize this service, to utilize him as an agent for their business. So the point being is if the plan would have worked out with us with US Air, it would still be the company that we're getting ready to use now. So I want that point very well understood. Mm-hmm. It was going to be the same. So first of all, understanding that CFM, and I don't know, I'm not really sure what I'm allowed to disclose when I can't because of the confidentiality agreement we have, but understand Corporate Flight Management flies for the military. Does a lot of other things, but my point being is working with the federal government, this is not a, no pun intended, a fly-by-night organization. We understood that when we went into negotiations. We understood that also US Air was willing to negotiate a contract with this corporation, understanding what they bring to the table. So this was not, again, just going into a frilly-nilly kind of decision making and hey, we've got somebody on the hook. A lot of thought, a lot of meetings, a lot of discussions, a lot of financial reviews, a lot of who are your partners, a lot of went into this. Now what happened is we walked out of that meeting with US Air we got down in the lobby, and I said, Luke, I'd like to have your ear for a moment. And instead of being discouraged, I said, why do we have to have the branding of US Air on the line? CFM is more than capable of doing this job. Why don't we talk to them to see if they have an interest in just doing it alone? And is there a way to partner with online services? And so that brought in another component of this that, again, Luke is the expert on all this. So we brought this back to the committee. The committee discussed it in whole. We understood. I went back to the city commission and discussed it with them. So we knew what we were doing based upon all the components at hand. So here's the bottom line is we can either sit on our hands and do nothing. We can let this opportunity simply pass us by, because the $750,000 grant was awarded. That was a federal grant that only can be awarded for the purpose of aviation. We would not be entitled to that. That would be going to some other community in this nation, allowing their community to prosper and grow into better quality of life. And our people still ends up traveling to Huntington and Charleston and Lexington and helping their economy. So we understood that. So this next phase of this comes into that we apply for $1 million worth of multi-county money. Now the subsidy, this process of offering a subsidy for commercial services is no stranger to Pike County. It's done all across the nation. It's done with the major conglomerates. It's done with rural communities. So this is nothing that's new to the community. So what happens is we apply for the multi-county money, having all the support of the names that I just mentioned earlier, having the backing of the $750,000 grant. So through this multi-county process, Floyd County approved it at a very, very quick 20-minute discussion. They understood the need and within the community, understood what we were offering, and they supported it. Pike County took a lot longer. They had several more questions, took about 4 months to get through the process. We found, after an event, a public meeting over at the Expo Center, we had fiscal court members that we're very proud of that stood up. Hillman Dotson, for one that I can remember, stood up and was very proactive in understanding what this means to the community. And I realize not everybody's going to get along from the standpoint of ideals, but the intent here is to discuss and disclose why this is important to our community and what this means and why we took the path that we did, and again, through full disclosure. Now, so what happens is we apply for the $1 million. The $1 million is, for lack of better words, there's a war on coal right now. We're all discussing it. We have lost jobs, and this is part of why this commercial service is so important. And through the loss of jobs through the coal industry also created a decline in coal production, which means that the coal severance deal production is also down. So when you look at the quarterly payments that are brought in for multi-county funds, what then happens is coal production is down, those funds are down, and we lost our funding. So the money that we're using for this second phase for the subsidy is not coming through the coal severance through this vote. That's the other major point I want to make. There is, and part of the press release is pursuant to KRS, the Transportation Cabinet is permitted to work with the airport under specific terms of the KRS to provide and to promote commercial air service. So what happens is that Governor Beshear and Tony Weiler, we went down and presented what Luke is getting ready to present and the community is getting ready to see. And for lack of better words, their jaw hit the table, realizing what this program is. They were very excited about it, but yet very discouraged because the quarterly payments wasn't enough to be able to pay for this project. So Governor Beshear, understanding the importance of this and supporting this community, went to the Transportation Cabinet and got a line item to support this project. So this funding is coming out, the bulk of the funding is coming out of the Transportation Cabinet, the Aviation Department. So we're very appreciative to all those that supported the project and understood the project by seeing, again, this PowerPoint. So anyway, that's where we're at today. The press release, I'm not going to go down that verbatim because the local press will have that. They can go through. There was some bullet points that the fiscal court put out that had concerns, and they're rightfully within, they're, as the leaders of the county, they have a right to question. We just asked that this project not be slowed down because, again, there's been years worth of work put into this, and when I name all these folks out to understand this, we are hurting right now from an economic standpoint, and we've got to find ways of diversifying our economy, and this can be a pivotal point. Now, before and I'm getting ready to introduce Luke, but before I go there, there's one key component that I want to discuss. The question is will this work? And the answer to that is I don't know. And I'm not sitting here telling everybody out there that this is going to be a huge success. It can be if the community embraces it. Now understand that the study was done out of the number of flights that if you drew a line boundaries to where it would be closer to drive to Pikeville than it would to any other airport. The 300 and some thousand people that live in that area, the 120 some thousand that flew last year out of that area. If we get 10% of that, 10% of those people that come to Pikeville, this will be successful. So and there's a lot of other convenience points as part of the presentation, that it's not just all about the price of the ticket, which it will be part of the contract that we have as a fair and competitive price, but it's also about the conveniences of having no parking fees and some of the other things that will be part of this website that will be designed. So it based upon the model, based upon a major corporation that's in this business of taking the willing to come in and to launch this service, and based upon the funding that's being used, and understand that we're not asking for 1 red cent from Pike County Fiscal Court or the City of Pikeville. The money is simply coming out of a federal and state grant that it would have went to somewhere else in this country or this state to benefit their economy instead of doing what we're elected and appointed to do, which is to support and improve the quality of life for those that we serve. So, make no bones about it. We're very passionate about this because it's been a long time coming to get to this point. Based upon all the facts that I just laid them out, and as the press release will explain, we had to, instead of sitting on our hands and sitting here knowing that US Air is not going to come, what is the next option? What is the next possibility? So this is something that I think that has, by the way, drawn the attention of some national publications that deal with aviation and some other organizations that really are amazed that a community such as this has been able to do what we've been able to do.
I know that Luke is going to address a lot of different issues that we're talking about as far as where the flights will go to, things of that nature, but I think at the heart of it, it's a regional opportunity for our entire area. You mentioned Charleston, Huntington, Kingsport even, Tri-Cities, all of those different places that people spend their money to go to when they could really keep that money here at home. And that's really the heart of, I think, what we're talking about, how it will be a wonderful regional impact as far as an economic growth for us. And I know that Luke is going to give us a lot of information, exciting information. So I'm going to let you introduce Luke, our guest today.
I was going to say, that's a great segue to introducing Luke Schmidt. And Luke's background is part of the reason that we brought Luke in, is not only his knowledge and understanding of the aviation world and some of the background of what he has done, but he wears several other hats. He's a lobbyist and deals with local governments on other components. He's worked on a consolidation effort, but there's a lot of other things that he's done. Instead of me messing it up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Luke and let him kind of give a little bit of his resume. And
I have named him the facilitator.
That's a good way to put him, Jill. That's a great way to put him.
No, Luke, thank you so much for being with us today. We're delighted that you're with us on the City Manager's Report. I know you have a wonderful presentation to get to, so give us a little bit about your background.
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. I live in Louisville, and
we won't hold that against you.
That's good. I appreciate that. Although I've spent so much time in Pikeville lately, I'm beginning to believe I'm almost a resident
and
here.
And we can adopt you. That's perfectly
right.
fine. We'll do that. It's
a great community, and there's so much going on here right now that it really is an exciting time to be involved. And I do management consulting for a variety of clients. Some are in Kentucky, some are outside of Kentucky. Some of the projects are related to local government and transportation, particularly aviation. Others are completely removed from that. And as Donovan said, I'm a lobbyist. I've been a lobbyist since 1980, so I spend time in Frankfort and also a lot on local government issues, so I'm very comfortable with doing that. Before I get into the PowerPoint part of this, I'd like to say that the 3 clients that I've been working with on this particular project, the city, the airport board, and the Chamber of Commerce, have just been completely supportive. It's been a team effort from the very beginning. As the consultant and the facilitator of this project, I really couldn't have asked for 3 better partners to do this, because we've stayed focused. And like any project like this, you have good days, you have some bad days, and even on the bad days, we would all just say, well, that's fine, we just have to work a little bit harder, but we'll get this done. And I think what we've been able to do is we have been able to secure service for the community that, as Donovan said, if the community will embrace it, if the community will support it and use it, it has the potential to grow in terms of additional flights, larger airplanes, maybe even different destinations. And so the opportunity is there, and as they say, when opportunity knocks, you have to seize the opportunity. And so that's really, if I was going to have a spiel today, that would be it. But let me, if it's okay, I'll just roll through this, and please feel free to ask questions as we go through. The project status, my part of this started about three and a half years ago. And the first thing that we did was we updated the market profile. And it was clear to me that even though the airport is in Pikeville and Pike County, the airport has the potential to serve a large region. Specifically 9 counties in Kentucky, 3 in Virginia, and 1 county in West Virginia. And when you add all of those counties together, the combined population is about 345,000 people. And as Donovan mentioned, if we were able to get 100% of the people that fly by air from this region through one of the 4 surrounding commercial airports in Huntington, Lexington, Charleston, and Tri-Cities, if we were able to just kind of grab all those people and have them fly out of here, you would have the potential of boarding 121,000 people each year. That's a good number.
It is a good number.
Now, we know we're not going to get 100%, and if we were able to ultimately get 10% or a little bit more, then the service will be successful, it will be profitable, it will not require any kind of revenue support, which is where we want to go. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that being said, we did meet with a number of potential providers early on. The market profile is about 70, 80 pages of lots of data and all, the kind of thing you would expect: revenue, income information on the region, bank deposits, population projections, all those types of things. And while there was a lot of interest, some of the companies that potentially could have been interested either went bankrupt or their primary markets were out west and they weren't going to have a chance to come east as we thought. One of the companies that I met with early on is the company that's coming, and that's Corporate Flight Management, which is based just outside of Nashville in Smyrna, Tennessee. And they really rose to the top of the list. And I think when the community gets to see these folks and see the airplane, meet the people, they will be as impressed as we have been that this is a good company, a very reputable, very reliable company. So the project status as of today, we have a viable air service proposal in hand. As we mentioned, we've negotiated and executed 2 contracts, one for air service and one for the airport use. And right now we're moving to the implementation phase, which is the most fun and the most exciting. And that right now service is scheduled to begin on March 1st of next year. So that's great.
March 1st, 2014.
Correct. So we're excited about that. Initially, the service will begin with 1 daily round trip from Pikeville to Nashville. The outbound flight will depart Pikeville around 6:30 in the morning. It will arrive nonstop in Nashville at 6:55 a.m. Central Time. It's not that fast.
They're an hour behind us.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right.
When I first thought, I thought, wait a minute. Okay.
Might need the space shuttle to go that fast,
yeah,
but
but that still is. I mean, that's not a lot of flight time.
No, it's an hour and 13 minutes flying time, actual flying time from takeoff to touchdown, and as they call it in the airline business, block time, which is gate to gate, is about an hour and 25 minutes. So. That's taxi time up to the gate and so forth. But an hour and 13 minutes is pretty short.
Right.
And particularly when you stop and think, it takes 2.5 hours to get to the Lexington airport, probably 2 hours to get to the Huntington airport, and an hour and 13 minutes
to
from
get to
here.
Louisville.
That's right.
Nearly 3 hours to Tri-Cities. So that cuts down a lot of time there.
That's right. So think of it this way: by the time you drive to Lexington and then hop on a flight that what's it going to do? It's going to take you to a hub where you make the connection. You're going to be well on your way on your trip by flying out of here at 6:30 in the morning. The return flight will depart Nashville at 5 p.m. Central Time. Nonstop back will arrive here about 7:25. And of course, you gain the hour going, you lose the hour coming back. But again, an hour and 13 minutes.
Okay, let me stop you there. Let me ask a question. This is daily service.
Yes.
Does that include Saturday and Sunday as well?
It does.
Okay, so it's every day.
Every day.
Okay.
And I want to point out that the company that we're working with, the 2 companies that we're working with, have indicated to us that if the community embraces it, if the demand is there, they can add additional round-trip flights. They can even go to a slightly larger airplane. And so the potential to grow is there, but it's up to the community to determine if, in fact, it would like more service. But that's just something to keep in mind. Very important, this service will be what we call terminal to terminal, or sterile environment to a sterile environment.
Right.
And what that means is when you get on the plane here, just like in Lexington or Charleston, you'll go through a security screening. If you have carry-on luggage, that will be x-rayed. You'll have to walk through an x-ray machine. The luggage that's checked on the plane will be x-rayed and so forth, so it'll be just like that part of it, very safe, very secure. When you get to Nashville, the plane will taxi you right up to a dedicated gate in the main terminal building. You'll hop off, you'll walk into the terminal, which is also a sterile, pre-screened area. And then if you're making a connecting flight, you'll simply walk to the gate where that connecting flight is located, and then you'll be on your way to your final destination.
Seems as though it's absolutely no different than any of the airports that we currently use.
That's correct.
And that's a key point that Luke mentioned. Part of the negotiation was to make sure that the commercial atmosphere is still there,
Right.
no difference. So it's not, again, flying in onto a tarmac and then unloading on a bus and being taken to somewhere else. It's actually terminal to terminal. A ticket counter will be available at both airports. Again, this is full service, full-service flight.
And what we do want to make reference to, now I don't know if you're going to speak about it coming up, but the Nashville airport has a lot of different carriers that fly from there.
Right.
So that just opens up a whole world of possibilities if you fly from Pikeville to there.
And we're going to talk about that because that's really the most important part of the service. There may be some people here that strictly want to go to Nashville, and that's fine.
Right.
But the real value of this service is the ability to fly to Nashville and make a quick connection to go to a lot of other places, major business destinations around the country, and that's really what we're talking about. The service will have dedicated ticket counter space and a dedicated gate in both airports here and in Nashville. And this is important, the aircraft that will be used for this service will be based here in Pikeville, as will the flight crew. And there will be, at least as I understand it, one maintenance person who will be based here as well. And the nice thing is, because the airplane will overnight here, unless there is a major weather issue in the morning, the plane should get out on time. So the reliability factor, because the aircraft will be here, is going to be really, really good. So that's important to note.
So which creates jobs, by the way. So
That's right.
Those are people that are working here in our community. So that's jobs in
They're going
Pike
to be
County.
based here, and that
Yes.
means they're going to live here, which is
So as of now, we know we've created 3 new jobs,
At
and
least.
at least, and there probably will be some more. So
Yes.
that's great. The airplane that we'll have is a state-of-the-art. It's a high-performance 19-passenger turboprop aircraft. It's a British Aerospace Jetstream J31 or J32. They're the same model basically. It's a pressurized stand-up cabin. You don't have to crawl down on your hands and knees to get to your seat. And unlike a lot of these planes, this one actually has an onboard lavatory.
Oh.
And it cruises at 265 miles an hour. It can cruise as high as 25,000 feet, so it's able to get above just about all of the major weather issues. It always will have 2 pilots. It's a fantastic airplane. Leather interior, very, very comfortable. And on takeoff, it actually outperforms and outclimbs a DC-9. So it's a very high performance airplane. And I think the people here, when they see it, we're planning to bring it in for an introduction in October so people can actually see what it looks like.
Yeah.
I think they'll be very pleased with it. I've flown on this plane a number of times over the years, and it's a great aircraft. Very, very safe. You asked about Nashville.
Yes.
Nashville, for our purposes of launching this service, brings several things to the table. Number one, Nashville is now the 34th busiest airport in the United States. You can go nonstop from Nashville to 49 different markets on 9 different airlines in the U.S. and Canada as well as Mexico. When we looked at a lot of the different markets that we could fly to, Nashville generally has the lowest airfares. And that's real important because what's going to happen is you will have the opportunity to connect to a number of different airlines going to a lot of different places. And generally speaking, what I think we'll find here for the Pikeville traveler is that the airfares will be lower by going through Nashville than they would by, say, going through a larger hub like Charlotte, where the airfares tend to be a little bit higher. So for the community, the benefit of launching this service, Nashville represents the least risk. which is important because we want to get this service established, up and running, and successful. And again, down the road, if the demand is there, the opportunity to add flights, add a larger plane, or maybe even a different destination exists. But right now, what we want to do is focus on getting people to use this and to embrace it.
Well, and on another note real quick too is Nashville also offers a great leisure travel opportunity. So being able to not only fly to 23 out of the 25 destinations that our studies said that our folks wanted to go to, but from a leisure standpoint, be able to go down and go to the Grand Ole Opry or to see a concert on a weekend and come back is again a great asset to the community.
Certainly, absolutely.
It's a very nice airport for your viewers who may not have flown through there. It's a very easy airport to get through. It's not like Atlanta where you have to take a train underground to 7 different terminals and hope to get there on time. Very user friendly. They just remodeled and renovated a lot of it. They've got new restaurants and shopping in the airport. So if you're going to be there for a little bit, there are things to do. And keying in on the country music industry, they actually have live music in the terminal. It's probably one of the few airports in the whole country that has that. So on occasion you'll be strolling through and there'll be perhaps an up and coming country music star that people will get to listen to.
So there's entertainment value too.
That's right.
If you have to sit
You just don't want to miss your connecting flight.
That's right.
So
Don't get all caught up in it.
Now the way we're going to do this, we have structured this by working with 2 companies. One company is called Corporate Flight Management that we've talked about, and the other is a company called Public Charters, which is based up in the Scranton, Pennsylvania area. The way that this works is Public Charters is essentially serving as the contractor for this project. And by law, by regulation, they'll be known as what's called the indirect carrier. And what that really means is that they will be responsible for all of the non-flying aspects of this project, such as ground handling of the aircraft here and in Nashville, baggage handling, and most importantly, ticketing. Public Charters has been around for a long time. They have contractual arrangements with virtually all of the major online ticket platforms where people go to buy tickets, like Travelocity and Orbitz and Kayak and so forth. That's real important to the success of this program, and that's why they're a part of it. They have other contractual arrangements with national and international organizations that allow them to sell tickets through companies like Corporate Flight Management for the purpose of providing the service. Corporate Flight Management, in essence, operates as a subcontractor on this service. They're responsible for all of the flying part of this project, providing the aircraft which they own, providing the flight crews, the maintenance, making sure the airplanes are properly maintained. Corporate Flight Management, as Donovan indicated, has a lot of contracts with the federal government, the state of Tennessee, a lot of collegiate sports teams. They manage airplanes that are privately owned for charter service up and down the East Coast, ranging from small piston twin-engine aircraft all the way to medium jets. So, most importantly, they have a great safety record. They hold what's called the Argus Safety Platinum rating, which is in their industry the highest that you can get. They have a 99% dispatch reliability. They've been operating a flight from Manistee, Michigan to Chicago, very similar to what we're going to have here for the last 9 months under contract. They've only canceled 1 flight. That's almost unheard of, that kind of reliability.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And now obviously if the weather's bad, they're not going to go.
Right.
But that's one thing that we like. Both of these companies are proven winners. They work together. They're going to bring a quality first-class product to this community.
Luke, with that said, and I'm not sure if it's further in your presentation, but the ticketing process you just mentioned, is there anywhere else in the presentation, or is this a good time to mention just a real quick?
Well, I think it's coming up.
Okay.
Let me get to that in just one
I want to make sure. I know I haven't seen his presentation. He done some revisions for the purpose of the show, so I don't want to step over him. But it's an important issue that we'll discuss here in a minute. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sure. All of this service is going to be regulated by the United States Department of Transportation. And in other words, it's not just a company coming in and going to set up shop and do whatever they want. Everything that they do, both Public Charters and Corporate Flight Management, everything they do will be part of a plan that they have to submit to the USDOT and that they have to honor. They can't simply come in here one day and say, well, we didn't sell many tickets today, so we're just not going to operate the flight. If the flight is scheduled, the flight goes, and that's that the reliability factor is there for the local travelers. Right now, Corporate Flight Management operates as a U.S. direct air carrier, and they're authorized under the FAA to do that and to provide that service. They're in the process of, for the lack of a better word, upgrading their certificate with the FAA, which will allow them to operate an unlimited number of what would be called scheduled public charter flights to any destination in the United States. In fact, that approval should be final by the middle of September, and so that's coming up. There have been no objections raised and no issues raised in that process, but as you would expect with the federal government, there are a lot of hoops and hurdles to go through, but they're just about there. And so that's very important. Public charters, what it does is it looks for opportunities to serve markets that are in smaller areas that are underserved. One example of a product that they offer is called Ultimate Air Shuttle, which is actually operated out of Cincinnati. And as you may know, there are two airports in Cincinnati. There's the Cincinnati Northern Kentucky International Airport, which is the big one that most of us have flown through. And then there's the old airport on the Ohio side called Lunken Airport, which was the old commercial airport in Cincinnati. A number of folks in the Cincinnati business community expressed interest in having access to a nonstop flight from Lunken Airport to Chicago and New York every day using a 30-passenger jet. So what Public Charters did is they partnered with a company called Ultimate Air Shuttle based out of Akron, Ohio, to come in and provide that service. And so that's been in operation since 2009. Very successful, unsubsidized. In fact, they just announced they're expanding. They're going to offer the same service not only from Lunken, but they're going to go across the river to CVG Airport and do the same thing. So that's a success story, and it's again, Public Charters is responsible for the ground handling, the ticketing, things of that nature. Ultimate Air Shuttle provides the flying. So this is a good model for what we're going to have here. The proposed service that we'll have here, the flights will operate as scheduled public charter flights in conjunction with FAA Part 380. And let me explain for a second, because sometimes there's confusion. When you hear the word charter, you think, well, that's not scheduled. And here it is. And public charter means it's open to anybody. A private charter is where you charter an airplane maybe to go to a ball game or an event, where the people on that charter, they're all going to the same place for the same purpose. A scheduled public charter flight, as we will have here, is just like a regular scheduled flight that you would have at any other airport. There will be a published schedule. The flights will operate on a given scheduled time, and the tickets are open to anybody. So you don't have to be part of a group to say, I want to go here. If you want to go to from here to Chicago, you can do it by starting in Pikeville, flying to Nashville, and then making a connection. What Public Charters and Corporate Flight Management will do is they're going to file a prospectus, which is a written plan that will spell out how this service will be operated, when it will be scheduled, and the USDOT, under its Special Authorities Division, will review that prospectus and then approve it, and then the two companies basically have to honor it. The prospectus binds the two service providers to provide this service on a daily basis, each fulfilling the role that they have. So again, all regulated. One of the nice things is that, we're already gone through that, so we'll go to the next one. The USDOT has determined that public charter flights are, for their purposes, defined as scheduled air transportation for the purpose of qualifying for the Small Community Air Service Development Grant, which we obtained.
Right.
So everything we're doing is legal and fits within a plan.
And supported through the DOT, through the guidelines, along with the other agencies. So this is, and if we have time at the end, we'll talk about some differences in some services that may have came up, because it's been questioned about the difference between Somerset and this service. And it's a total apples to oranges argument, a 180 turnaround, again, because of the regulations and the way that this thing's been set up.
That's right. And that's, if we don't say anything else all day, for the skeptics out there that say this is quote unquote another Somerset, they're wrong. And my last two slides will illustrate that. Nice thing about the way this is being set up is that there are enhanced consumer protections that are available through this type of operation that are not necessarily available through a major airline operation. First of all, when people go out online and they buy a ticket, they paid for the ticket obviously in advance, they make the flight and so forth. These two companies don't get paid until that flight has been operated. The money that is generated from the sale of tickets goes into an escrow account that's held independently, and in order for the two companies to be paid, they have to basically fulfill it. They have to operate the flight. If, and this is a big if because it would never happen, but let's say one of these companies just went bankrupt and just went out of business. If passengers had already prepaid for tickets and then the flights weren't going to operate because of something like that, they would get their money back because, again, there's a bonding system that the two companies have to go through. Again, they don't get paid until the flight operates. So if they were canceled because of some major event like that, the people would get their money back, which is a good deal. And again, because of this written prospectus, this written plan that the two companies have to file with US DOT, they have to honor what they're going to do. If they say they're going to fly out every morning at 6:30 out of Pikeville, unless there's a mechanical issue with the airplane or bad weather, and frankly neither event you'd want to be on the plane until it's fixed, they've got to go. They can't just say, oh gosh, we don't want to fly today, we didn't sell that many tickets, so we're just not going to operate.
That's what I was going to ask. When you say it's a 19-passenger plane, what if there are only, say, 7 tickets sold for that day? That plane will still fly.
That plane still flies.
Regardless of whether it's a full flight or not.
That's exactly right.
Anywhere else. And actually also not only requirements of the prospectus as it's set up through as Luke just mentioned it through the DOT regs, but also as part of the contract that they have executed. That is also a requirement of the contract that they are mandated to follow.
So if there are 2 people,
That's right.
it will still go.
One person.
One person, it will still
will
go.
fly.
You'll have your choice of seating, but
and that's the purpose of why we have to have the subsidy. I mean, and again, this is a model, or I won't say just a model. This is just a common practice that's all over the nation. That's why a young airline starting out, not airline, but service starting out, they have to have this subsidy to be able to get the momentum to get going for people to. And part of the deal is the marketing piece of it. So back to you, Luke. I'm sorry.
You asked earlier about connecting opportunities in Nashville. On the screen here are the logos for all of the airlines that currently serve Nashville, and they're all the major companies that everybody has heard about. People that buy tickets here in Pikeville will have the opportunity to connect to any of the flights that any of these airlines operate. And the nice thing is they will be able to do this essentially on a single ticket basis. Now there's one exception, and that's Southwest. Now Southwest is the major carrier in Nashville, and that's one reason why the airfares are generally lower there, because of Southwest. But Southwest as a company, since it began back in the 70s, has never allowed what's called interline ticketing with any other airline. They just don't do it. And that's, right now, if you flew from Atlanta to Nashville on Delta and wanted to connect to a Southwest flight to, say, Chicago, you can do that, but you have to buy 2 tickets, and that's because of Southwest policy. So that will be the case here, but the nice thing is that Public Charters has, through their ticketing and their computer systems and the other online sales platforms that we'll be using, even though technically you will be buying 2 tickets if you connect to a Southwest flight in Nashville, you can do it on a one transaction basis. So it's not like you've got to go in, buy a ticket, get out, and then go back into the program and buy a second ticket. And the other thing too is it will display all of the flight options and connection options that you have. So let's say that you want to go from here to Orlando. What you'll do is go into the computer, whether it's Travelocity or Public Charter's own website. There will be a wide variety that you can use, but you'll put in that you want to go from Pikeville to Orlando, and on the screen it will show the Corporate Flight Management's flight from here, and then it will show the Southwest connecting flight from Nashville. And then you can select it, it'll show you what the cost is, and then you can say, ticket, or, confirm that you want to buy the ticket. And then through their system, it will essentially buy 2 tickets through one transaction. You'll get an email receipt showing the boarding pass and what the flight arrangements are and so forth, as well as the cost. So that's a terrific opportunity. 49 different locations, destinations that you can connect to. 23 of the top 25 business destinations for this region will be accessed nonstop from Nashville. So that's a great opportunity. Let's see, I think we kind of covered that. One thing that is important, when Public Charters did all the research on this market, they did determine that by going through Nashville, it's their belief and their intent to offer fares that on a total trip cost basis will be competitive with all of the surrounding airports, such as Lexington and Charleston. One of the neat things that we're planning to do, we're going to do a new website for the airport that will, among other things, include what we'll call a trip cost calculator. And so if people want to shop and see, well, is it cheaper to fly out of Pikeville or is it cheaper to fly out of Charleston, what they'll be able to do is go get their airfares for all those different origin points and then plug it in. And then on the website, it'll ask you where you're coming from. Let's just say you're coming from Hindman over in Knott County. And then it'll ask you how many days will you be away. And so within a matter of seconds, it'll display on the screen what the total trip cost is, the cost of driving from Hindman to Pikeville or Lexington or Charleston or Huntington or Tri-Cities. It'll show what the airfare is, and it will show what the cost of parking is, which for this place will be free, which is terrific. So you'll see what the total cost of that trip will be. And then you can determine which one is the best option.
Let's go back to the free parking thing. Now, you mentioned that earlier, Donovan. Any other airport that you go to, you do have a daily charge for parking, and sometimes it could be upwards of $25, $30, which really adds to the cost of your entire trip. You say to park here at our airport, there will be no cost.
That's correct.
Well, and that's the key thing to keep into perspective here when you're thinking about all this. As Luke said, there's a couple things we really want to get the message out. One is that the total cost fare, because when you look at Nashville, that's part of the reason that we were so excited about Nashville is because the overall ticket price is so low. The second issue is regarding the savings that you'll have of time in a car. If I'm, my company's paying me, there's some time I'm spending driving versus being productive from where I need to be. There is mileage that you're paying, gas money you're paying, the parking you're paying, hotel if you're going an early flight. There's a lot of other things that you have to take into consideration above just the ticket price. Most important also the convenience. So let's not lose perspective of just homing in on that one ticket price. There's some other savings around the ticket price plus the issue of convenience, why this is so important.
When you sit down and add up all those costs that you just mentioned, you're talking anywhere between $400 and $500 depending on where you're going. That's going to be eliminated for the most part here if you can fly from this area.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
Great idea.
Yeah, we think it's going to be a very competitive product, and we think people will like it when they finally get to see it. Let me, I know we're running short on time. Let me roll through the last part of this very quickly. I do want to touch on the revenue guarantee part of this because that has been somewhat controversial in the community and I think misunderstood. We have the grants in hand that are going to be used to support this revenue guarantee, and this is standard practice for any airport in the country that's getting new service to help it get up and get legs, if you will, and be able to be sustainable. The nice thing here is Public Charters, Corporate Flight Management both feel that within slightly over a year, 13 months to be exact, that this service will build to a profitable point. And that's really important to us because what that means is based on their projections, and they're very conservative, they believe that after 13 months this service will be profitable and it will remain profitable, which means there will be no need for any revenue guarantee past that point. So the two grants that we've received, it's the intent to use virtually all of that money to support that revenue guarantee in the first 12 or 13 months. No local money will be used, no county money, no city money. It's all either federal or state grants that we've received specifically for this purpose. And
if those grants aren't completely expended, they go back to the granting agency, which the granting agency was very happy.
Oh, I'd say so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much so.
I fast forwarded here to the last two slides because we do want to emphasize, as Donovan mentioned, that this is different from what occurred in Somerset a few years ago because there have been a couple of local officials that continue to say this will be another Somerset, and that is absolutely not true. There was a company that provided service in Somerset called Lockyer, and we're asked, how will this service that we're going to bring here be different from what was provided in Somerset? And it differs in every way. And significantly, first of all, the airports, Pikeville and Nashville, the flight schedules, all of that will be approved by the USDOT through their Special Authorities Division, and no changes can be made without USDOT approval. It will be daily service, including weekends, daily round trips. In Somerset, it was a haphazard schedule at best. The flight out of Somerset might operate on a Monday. The return flight might be a Thursday. You never knew. You couldn't plan on it. All passenger seats on our aircraft will be available for sale. That was not the case in Somerset because that was an air taxi. It's a very different setup. Their plane was a 19-passenger seat plane, not as good as the one we're going to have, but they could only sell 9 seats. So that meant 10 seats were empty every time that plane took off. It was destined for failure from the very beginning. That is not the case here. We will have combined itineraries with 9 airlines, including Southwest, for connecting purposes. And as we started out by saying, this will be sterile to sterile, terminal to terminal service. That was not the case in Somerset, where you landed and you had to land at a fixed base operator across the field, get your luggage, hop in a van, drive around the airport, go back to the ticket counter, recheck your bags, go through security again, and then when you came back, you had to reverse that process. So
Horribly inconvenient.
terribly inconvenient, and they lost money on every flight. We project that we're going to make money after 13 months, and we'll continue to make money, and the service will build. And we're going to promote it. Part of our grant will be used to develop a marketing campaign, the website. So the community is going to hear a lot about this over the next few months as we roll into that. That concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to take any last questions. I know we're almost out of time.
Well, Luke, this issue is so important to the community. You can't see us, we're hand gesturing off backstage, but I've asked for a little bit more time. So we're going to run over just a little bit on our normal programming, because this is, A, it's an issue that's been in the headlines. B, the public deserves to know all the ins and outs, and we want to make sure that we cover this thoroughly so that there is no question based upon some of the concerns that the county may have, and more importantly, the concerns that our public has that are going to be utilizing this service. And I think what Luke just said was, first of all, in the Somerset issue, Somerset was doomed to fail. The committee that was set up in conjunction with the Complete Airport Board and the City Commission and the Executive Board of the Chamber, because the other issue is, why was the Chamber involved? You know, they were at the meeting the other day, is because there's actually a third contract. The third part of this is the marketing piece that Luke just mentioned, and that's where the role of the Chamber will be playing in getting the business community excited about what's happening, making sure, because of what they do on a regional basis. They touch a lot of communities outside of Pike County also, and that's the success. This is not a Pike County, City of Pikeville service. This is a regional service, and we are relying upon the market to embrace this service in order to make it successful, so that we don't have to make those trips. You know, Jill, I mentioned it and I'm going to say it again. I mean, it pains me every time that our folks have to leave here to go to Charleston or Huntington or somewhere else and spend their money. With the regional hospital, the University of Pikeville, our banking community, we're getting ready to break ground this month on our new retail facility. Our people are able to stay home, and this is another component of that. Not to mention, here's the reality, is that within the last 2 months, I've met with 2 major, and I mentioned 2 of them, major business components in our community that help our economy. Both of those entities are working on expansion programs, and the problem with the expansion is that they can't get there without commercial air service, because no major corporation wants to come into a community where they've got to drive 3 hours to get to you. It's just an inconvenience to them, and in essence, you're backwoods to them. So, you know, this isn't, there's a lot of different layers to this of why that it's important, but also want the community to understand the assurance is that Bill Hickman, for example, is the chairman of the airport board, and we've got a great airport board. You know, these guys, I'm clearly interested, I mentioned this at the meeting, they serve at the will of the community. They get no pay. They do this because they believe in improving the quality of growth. They've had several components, and I mentioned them at the signing of things that they've done to improve the quality of the airport. They got a $3 million runway, a taxiway expansion going on right now. Again, federal dollars, didn't cost our community anything. That was a component to getting the service here. The City Commission annexed the territory a couple of years ago, again, to lend fire and police protection, a component of getting the service here. So there's been a lot of work beyond just saying we've got a provider. The folks of the community has just saw the background on what these are. These 2 providers, of why they're married together now, why they're part of the deal. But it went beyond that. When I sat down, and part of the last month, Luke will tell you, is that we joke about it, but you know, we were very difficult, because I go back to Bill Hickman, is that, you know, Bill, when the previous Lock Air was being considered, Air Lazul or whatever they were called at the time, came in. The airport board voted them down. They were not for bringing them into the city. When we sat down with this group, the airport, Bill Hickman with the voice of the airport said, if you bring us another Air Lazul type deal, we're not interested. We won't even listen to it. So when they understood what this was and how it all played together, that's why we got the interest. And let's go back to my original statement. We can sit in our hands as here and have a pipe dream that we're going to get US Air in here tomorrow, or we can do the next best thing and go out there and make something work. And this is a great plan of bringing two companies to do this for a living in, that's got proven track records, it's got a great plane, that's comfortable, got a laboratory. They're mandated under the contract. Now let's talk about the contract just a moment. The contract that we had, and as I say, Luke was laughing about how difficult we were, is because Luke was a mediator between the two companies, us and them. Though he was working for us to get the best deal, the company also has to be profitable, and they did their due diligence on the market as well. It's not that the other part of it is that they wanted a partner they could dance with too. It's not just about coming into a market that's going to be unsuccessful. They've got to have a proven track record so that as they go to other markets, which they plan on doing, that they've got to show that they made things work. So, a couple things that we did is one that talking about the counter-to-counter and the DOT regulations and all the on-time flight and all those things that they're mandated to do, going through TSA, not seeing your bags till you get to your destination. All those, again, are commercial service. I don't care what label you put on it, it's commercial service, what we're used to. You can call it anything you want all day long. All those compartments are commercial service. However, we also said, look, there's a component to the pricing. We want to make sure we're competitively priced. In the contract, it says they'll be competitively priced. In the contract, they're mandated to sit down with us once a quarter to look at the pricing. In the contract is if they don't hit all those requirements, we've got a 60-day, it's a 60-day. We went back and forth on the time. We've got a 60-day out clause to where we say we're done. So we just notify them and it's done on our behalf.
Yeah, there are protections built in for both of the parties, but in particular the city and the airport board.
Absolutely.
If these two companies, for whatever reason, don't live up to their obligations, we'll have a quarterly review, and if it doesn't get better, if there are problems, I don't think that'll happen, but if it does, the city and the airport board have outs to get out of it.
We believe we have partnered with the right company. It's a round peg and a round hole for what we have, and I believe that it will be successful if the community embraces it. So did all the names of the people that I just mentioned earlier.
Right.
That's been very supportive of this. The governor believed in this project enough to where he put the money back into the pot to make sure that it was supported. So we appreciate the support of our governor and Congressman Rogers and all the other entities and the businesses that signed. So this will be a successful venture if we get there. And one last thing, and I'll turn it back over for the finish is, as Luke mentioned, a marketing campaign will soon start. The contracts have been executed, so we're contractually bound. And then the other component is October 17th is an important date because that's the date we're inviting the community up to the airport that you'll actually get to see the plane.
Yeah, that's October 17th.
Yes,
That's
yes.
a little over a month away.
Yes.
Right.
Let me recap quickly. There will be daily flights from Pikeville to Nashville starting March 1st, 2014, 6:30 in the morning, right?
Yes.
6:30. Then there will be a return flight every single day, regardless of how many passengers are on that plane, up to the 19 limit at 5 o'clock every day, putting you back in Pikeville around 7 o'clock. Wonderful.
And there's other components of this that we can grow into, as Luke mentioned. That's also important because above just having that daily flight, that plane will be stationed here. The pilots will be here. So if a group wanted to get together and we wanted to fly to a UK ball game, for example, we would be able to also charter that for a special flight that day for a group to fly to UK or to fly to the beach. So there'll be other special flights that we can also generate above and beyond this. So this thing it's got a great potential, great opportunity, and the best part about it is that we're not paying for it through our local dollars. We're using dollars that would have went to other parts of our nation and spent there to benefit their community, and we're able to do it for our community.
We are, and for our entire region, and I can't think of a better thing to do than to open up our beautiful region. You mentioned this too, Luke, earlier when you came in, to every other part of our country, not just our state, but our country as well.
Well, there's great tourism potential here. You have the Hatfield-McCoy event, which has become a big thing. There's a lot of interest in that. The documentary that was on television, of course, was a huge success. You have the Breaks Interstate Park nearby that has world-class whitewater rafting, and so this will make it easier for somebody that wants to fly in to go rafting. They can do that. So, great opportunity, and certainly for the coal industry that is struggling and fighting some pretty onerous regulations and other things that are out there. This will give them an extra tool to help market their coal if they want to go, talk to brokers in other cities to buy the coal. This is a great way for them to be able to do that, and for people to come here and see the mines.
Great opportunities.
Well, one last point too is that we've done our best today to explain this deal in its entirety. The contracts are available for the viewing of any public wants to see it. However, from the City Commission's perspective and Luke's perspective, if the county has any concerns, the City Commission is officially inviting the county, any of the magistrates or the judge, to sit down with the commission. They're willing to open up the special work session during the commission meeting to bring Luke in, and we can define this even more in deep. But we want to make sure that everybody understands this, and that we're extremely excited and delighted with our partnership and that it's moving forward.
Exciting time for our city and for the entire region. Luke, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and explaining all of the great opportunities that are coming to our area. It is an exciting time to make plans now. I guess, Donovan, October 17th is the day.
We'll be here.
And the first flight will happen March 1st, 2014.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been, I should say, the City Manager's Report. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next time.